Welcome to The Truth Unplugged, the podcast where faith meets real life. I'm Nicole.
I'm Father Tim.
And I'm Father Star.
Whether you're Catholic or just curious, this is the place for honest conversations with no fluff.
No fluff at all. Lots of laughs. Grab your coffee and settle in.
And welcome to The Truth Unplugged.
I think she just makes it up.
This is a lot of music.
Good morning. Welcome back.
Morning.
Thanks for listening. This is episode 8.
Have we done that many?
8? Yeah, I think so.
That's what it says on the paper.
That is what it says.
Lighthearted intro, something funny about family
Please
life.
don't read that part.
Well, it also gives examples and it says spouse quirks. And
Wait,
I'm trying to figure this one out.
Does this show air today?
It
says it airs November 12th.
isn't today. Oh, no.
Is it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Wow, we actually are recording one that's going to air soon.
Yeah, can you believe
So
that?
I can talk about current events, like how they're cutting down our trees, and they just brought in a bunch of concrete
Exactly.
pipe this morning.
I'm not traveling for a week anymore, so we're good. And, Father Star's actually here in person, so we can record it in live. So today we are talking about marriage and parenting, which I guess I am the only one with direct experience
I
with.
literally know nothing about either of those.
You say all the time, "Oh, my cats are my kids."
No, that's weird. I say that just
put them in timeout.
I say that to trigger parents like you. I do know. I probably know more about marriage than anybody else, though.
I would agree. You at least know more about marriage, like through all its stages, than I do at this point, because you've heard people talk about it.
Nobody knows marriage better than I do.
Why is that?
Because I prepare people for
I'm
marriage.
not biting.
I counsel people in their marriages. I witness really good, healthy, holy marriages, and then I see marriages break apart.
Father Star, do you have any thoughts about if you know marriage better than I do?
That really depends on what you mean, right? So I can tell you a stove is hot, but I really don't know what that means until I touched it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Do you even know what a stove is for?
I don't know. You're the one who works with it. I just do the dishes. And you know what? I add productivity to the cooking.
That's true.
I eat it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Have you stopped your Blue Apron?
Blue Apron stopped itself, actually. They had some issue. So
Food poisoning or something. Like
Oh, okay.
Botulism.
Probably good for you.
Blue Apron's good for me.
You have your own personal Blue Apron right there.
Yeah, I've gained like 10 pounds under
Last night we had the MCs over,
so
and I made, with the assistance of the Italian, I made rigatoni alla norcina. Oh, it was so good.
I don't even know what that means, but that sounds good.
I don't
Well, that's
even
my
know
one
what
thing
it
for
is,
this week,
but it
probably,
tasted
so.
good. So
Is it pasta? Cream-based?
Yeah.
Tomato-based?
Not cream-based.
well,
Ricotta cheese-based.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
You can make it with heavy whipping cream, but that's the cheater way.
I'm making lasagna soup.
Lasagna can't be a soup.
It's going to be
Is lasagna a casserole, or is lasagna like sui generis its own thing?
What?
Is lasagna a casserole, or is it its own thing?
I have no idea.
I think, isn't a casserole just ingredients in a baking dish thrown in the oven?
I would say that lasagna is sui generis.
What does sui generis mean?
Ask the Latin scholar.
I'm not a Latin scholar.
There's
And
a
you
lot.
use the word.
Yeah, that doesn't even sound Latin.
It means it's unique unto itself.
Are you pronouncing that right?
I'm pronouncing that right.
Sui generis. Okay.
For once, he's pronouncing it right, I think.
But you are unfamiliar with the term?
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Hey, you know what? This is going to be an interesting podcast. I've had like 4 hours of sleep. It'll work.
Yeah. And I've had the worst nanny experiences in the past week. So I'm in a great mood.
You should just ask one of our big families to give you one of their children as an au pair.
None of them are fully homeschooled.
Yeah. I couldn't.
Well, just steal one.
Aren't
Kidnap
available in the times that I need them.
I couldn't imagine the stress it takes to pick a nanny.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you?
It's like you have to weed out the weirdos, and it's like, do you want to spend time with children all day?
Yeah, you're going to spend time with children and you're going to aid to their development. So any traumas they may have when they're 20 or 30 will be directly responsible to this nanny. So you have to pick somebody who isn't going to affect their development.
Turn your daughter
Exactly.
into a serial killer or something.
Exactly. And I thought I picked a great lady, and then she starts telling
Hey, look,
Teresa that the washing machine and the dryer are going to catch on fire if they leave the house, and the dishwasher will explode, or strangers will break in if they leave. And I was like, what is happening?
I'm all about fear-based parenting.
No.
Or nannying in this case. I can relate because when I have to find people to take care of my cats when I'm gone.
Oh my gosh. See, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, let's get into it, I guess.
What are we talking about today?
Marriage
Marriage?
is what brings us together today.
Marriage is a vocation.
What's more important, work or church?
Well, I know like the technical answer to that question, but when people don't have PTO or
What's PTO?
Paid time off.
I know you don't have any. Well, you have quite a bit.
What are you talking
2
about?
weeks to Barcelona.
It was more like 3 weeks, and that was a pilgrimage. Thank you very much.
And a personal week of retreat and a Caribbean retreat or boat ride.
Priests get 30 continuous days off a year, which means that
According to the law, right?
Yeah, according to the law. So
6 weeks of paid vacation is excellent.
but we only get 1 day off a week. And sometimes, in our case, no days off a week. So it actually, if you do the math and you work it out, it equals out.
Parents get a day off a week, right?
Which parents?
don't know.
Surely not toddler parents. Do you ever think about how hard it would be to be a priest, have 0 days off, and also have small children and a wife at home?
Yeah, there's a great reason why priests are celibate.
I think about that. So I'm like doing this. I'm like, I can't imagine if I had to do this and my husband had to go to the church and be present 6 days a week and potentially study canon law.
And then he would come home and then you would be like, give me all the tea. Tell me what happened. I want to know. And then he would be like, I can't do that. And you'd be like, but I really want to know all the goss.
I don't think I would.
Yeah, you would.
I think he would want to tell me.
Imagine it's like 2:00 in the morning, your kid's really sick and you need to be there, care for them. And then somebody calls because they need their last rites. And how do you choose between your own child and your spiritual child? And
or like the case in Athens when we had the married priest and he was supposed to do 8 a.m. mass and preach. I think he was still a deacon then, but he was supposed to preach. And I got up and I broke one of the cardinal rules of preaching. I said, I have absolutely nothing prepared to preach about today because the deacon was supposed to be here, but he's not because he's at the hospital because his wife is having a baby. And that's why we don't have married priests.
I don't know a lot about like the sacramental side of marriage. I know a lot about living it every day, but can you guys speak into like why is marriage a sacrament?
Because Jesus made it one.
But why?
Okay, so I think it'd be more helpful if you tell us what you know about marriage.
That's a very broad question.
How long have you been married?
I've been married 6 years.
That's it? I thought it was longer.
No, Teresa's 5.
Okay.
But I mean, the first question you have, and I know you don't want me to read this paper, but I'm going to read it anyway, says, what makes Catholic marriage different from being in love, right?
Well, being in love is not like a way of living, if that makes sense. Like being in love is a feeling, I think. Why are you saying that? Wait, which one of you made that noise?
What is love?
I know what love is, but like if we're talking about being in love as the culture defines it, that's a feeling. Love is sacrifice and giving.
That's why I don't like talking about it the way the culture does because the culture is wrong.
And I think this is what makes
And I say it at like every wedding.
Yeah.
Love is not a feeling. Love is not an emotion. Love is not that, butterflies in your tummy. Love is an act of the will, willing the good of the other.
I mean, what are the 4 types of love?
You've got the filio, right? Brotherly love. You've got the eros, the kind of passionate love. You've got storge, right?
Which is love of things, right?
Yeah, love of things, like this coffee cup. And then you have agape.
So we have a word for love, eros, which we called passionate love. What is the definition of a passion?
Passion is a strong desire within us, right? And it can either be ordered or disordered.
And what is the modern etymological word? Like, what is the word we use?
Erotic?
Feelings.
Oh, feelings. Oh.
Love is just a feeling.
Hmm.
In eros.
Yeah.
If you're
Right.
using it that way, but
No,
No.
I think
No, I mean, I've heard your wedding homilies. Like, yes, you're right. It's not just a feeling, but a lot of people, like, I think the reason marriage fails so often today is because people think it is a feeling.
Mhm.
When those feelings go away and you're having a tough time, like dying to yourself is the last thing you want to do when you both feel burnt out.
And then you find yourself in Father Starr's office because you need an annulment because nobody told you what love really is.
Yeah, but also maybe because you're too selfish to really.
Which is another reason why you need an annulment.
Well,
He's
but
going
I
to correct
think
me.
you can know maybe hypothetically what love means in marriage. Like you've seen people be married, but then like when you're living it, it's a very different experience. Like it, and which is why I wanted to also talk about like marriage as a vocation. Like being each other's path to sainthood, or are you in charge of each other's salvation, whatever, because there's so much like challenge in the day-to-day life of marriage of you have to put away yourself and put away your desires and your feelings and your selfishness.
That's why it's really important to marry somebody that has similar outlook on life and the world as you, why it's important to marry someone that shares your faith,
Yeah.
why it's important to marry somebody that you're not just marrying for a feeling. You're not marrying because of looks, or you're not marrying because, you like that this person can do this thing, but you're marrying because you can align your values and you can desire heaven together, and you can create small people that also will help to sanctify you and help you to grow in patience and love. And then they'll learn from that, and then they'll get married, hopefully, to people with similar values, or they'll become priests or religious. And that's how we kind of keep going.
I've heard so many times recently from people my age who are not married or are, pursuing marriage eventually, say that they're marrying somebody because they both like to travel. And that just makes, anytime anyone uses that as an example,
that
it
means
makes
that
my heart sink.
They're going to be perpetual dinks.
To me, it means they have no idea what marriage is.
You know what a dink is, right?
Yes,
Okay,
I
I'm just
know.
making sure for our
I
people.
never was
What's
a dink.
A dual income, no kids. Yeah, all they do is travel and live like they're retired boomers, and just spend money and live selfishly. And
Yeah, I don't think they realize that. I think marriage as a vocation is one of the most courageous things you can do, right? You remember your wedding day?
Yeah,
Was it good?
it was very nice. I
Right.
was
Do you
very
remember
happy.
looking into his eyes and saying your vows and all of that?
No, because I cried through my vows.
Okay, why
So
were you
I did
crying?
not see him. Because
So
I
you
was
were-
very excited.
Like very excited, very emotional.
Very ready. And I knew like what we were saying yes to.
Did you?
No.
See-
but I thought I did.
But so that's the thing, right? There's a reality. No one knows what they're getting into. But when you say yes, all of those emotions, you're saying yes to every sacrifice, every
Right.
drop of blood, every time your kid peed on you, every time your husband was being annoying, which I'm sure is every single day. And it's the same for him, right? And that doesn't go away just because two people say we are getting married because we like to travel, right?
Right.
So, I mean, as a priest, one of my favorite things to say in homilies is I love being a priest because when I'm done with y'all, I go home to my rectory and it's quiet and I can lock his cats out of the room. But yeah, there is something essential to marriage that can never be avoided when you give vows. It always rears its head. It's always in front of you, right? And it's attached to what marriage is in itself, right? I mean, what are you promising? What are the ends of marriage? I'm sure you've talked about this already, right?
Yeah. Oh, is that a question?
yeah, what are the ends
Yeah.
of marriage?
It's heaven. Is it
No.
not?
So the ends of an act are the things are the good, the thing that they lead to,
Yeah.
right? And all of those lead to heaven.
Because there's no marriage in heaven.
Right.
There's no marriage in heaven.
So what are the goods of marriage?
Goods of marriage. Children. Sanctification.
No.
No? I don't know. What other than children?
So there's two goods or two ends. The good of the spouse and the good of the children, right? And it's not just sanctification, right? Everything that we do is for the salus animarum, that's the salvation of souls, right? But it's actually for the good of the spouse themselves.
Explain that.
When you're sick, your husband should take care of you, right? He should feed you. He should make sure you're taking your medicine. He should put you in the bed. He should be taking care of the kids, right? I'm pretty sure he doesn't, because men are wusses usually when they're sick.
Oh yeah, sick mothers always take care of their kids.
Yeah.
I remember my mom had like a fever of 104 on Christmas Day one year, and she still made sure that Christmas happened because couldn't have happened without her.
And the good isn't just about sanctification to get into heaven. It's actually about the relational element. Now, this is an innovation of the 20th century. It's from the rise of a movement called personalism, St. John Paul II, and it actually entered into the law. And it's actually, world jurisprudence talks about it. There has to be that eros, that romantic love, that is actually intimately connected to the good of the spouse, right? So you can't just say, I feed you, I put a roof over your head, that's it. No, there has to be a relational element to it, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
When I do a wedding, usually the gospel is you're the salt of the earth. And I talk about how now that you're going to be a married couple, you're a sign of Christ's love to the church, and the church's love and obedience to Christ, and that you both will lay down your lives for one another, and that when people see you, they should see the love of Christ for the church. When they see a married couple in a sacramental marriage, by the way that you live, they should see the love that Christ has for his church, and they should see the love that the church has for Christ.
Theologically, you can think of this way, and I love speaking because you roll your eyes still. I love it. So when Adam and Eve were created, Adam was created on the 6th day, right? And he shouldn't be alone. So Eve was created on the 7th day. The 7th day is the day of covenant. So when he sees Eve that morning, it is actually the signing of the covenant between him and her, but it also becomes an image of the covenant between God and man itself, right? So marriage is always intimately linked to the covenant between God and man. It always represents that, which is why like having children is considered a blessing, because you are living in the covenant of God. Your covenantal relationship with your wife bears fruit, right? But of course, after the fall, we have a separation. So even in that, you see marriage being a representation of the covenant, right? The two punishments.
Yeah.
The difficulty of bearing children is because you can no longer bear fruit in the covenant because you're separated from your God. You're also separated from your wife. It's not a punishment per se of God saying, I'm going to make your life difficult when you have children. No, your very act of being fulfilled has been destroyed by this act of sin. So being fulfilled is producing fruit.
Okay.
Remember, you're created for bearing fruit and guarding and tilling the soil, right? So reason Adam can't till the soil very well because he had separated himself from God. So marriage, and then you have divorce that enters into the equation. All of this stuff is a representation of God's covenant between man. So you have Jesus Christ who comes, who creates a new covenant, right? Okay. And how does he create that new covenant?
Through his sacrifice on the cross?
Through the cross, right? Yeah. Marriage still maintains itself as being an icon of that covenant. And it's elevated to a sacrament now because a sacrament always points to the covenant of God as worship. So marriage by its nature is a worship of God. And when you looked at your husband and said, I do, you were worshiping God because you were uniting yourself to the covenant of Christ in his cross. You were literally at that moment when you said, I do, being crucified for your husband, right? So marriage becomes an act of worship as a sacrament to the Father. And it is the perfect representation on earth of that covenant, which is the crucifixion and resurrection of our Lord. That is what marriage is in a nutshell, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you think people would agree to that all the time if they knew that?
No, but
that's crazy.
But that's why we don't just, marry people when they come in and off the street and like, hey, we want to get married. Okay, great. Let's talk about what marriage is. And let's make sure that you really understand it so that you can commit to it because it's for life.
man. But I guess I see that. Like, I'm listening to somebody could have told me that in marriage prep, and I would have said, like, oh, yeah, okay. But now that I've lived it for 6 years, I'm kind of like, oh, yeah, I see it, you know? So.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because when you get married, you have to know that, but it's impossible to know that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know of the basic, jurisprudence calls it the proto-practical knowledge of the marital bond, right? What does it actually mean to live with this person as that covenant, right? And you have to be aware of it. You have to be aware or make yourself aware of how difficult it's going to be, but you're never aware of how much it hurts until they start driving the first nail into your hands as you're being placed onto the cross, right? It's impossible.
So would it be a good idea then to like do a trial marriage first and like live together before you get married so that that way you can better know it?
Despite the fact that you're being facetious, right?
Right.
Yeah,
but I mean, but that's the kind of the modern logic of like, well, before we get married, let's try it out, make sure it works. And
there's a theological and practical reality of this. Practically, the data shows if you do that, your marriage is more likely to fail.
Yep.
But theologically, if you're living in a relationship that's an imitation of everything I just said of that covenant, it is almost like an act of sacrilege because you are saying, I am engaging in this act of worship of God through my love of my spouse, but I'm not really.
It's a lie. You're living a lie.
Yeah. And
right.
I think it's stronger than the word lie.
Yeah.
Right? Lie means to say a word that isn't true because you're actually living it, right?
If you talk about marriage as crucifixion, and that idea of the nail being driven into your hand, then what is it in a simulation of marriage where you're saying, I live like I'm married, but we're not really? Is there sacrifice being made? Maybe, but is it worth anything or is it totally in vain?
Totally in vain, I would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Because at any minute you can just say like, nope, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to walk away. And it's like, great, you never should have done that in the first place.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's something about like being married and knowing like this is permanent until we die that makes like all of the angst and bad days and the cleaning up vomit for the 40th time or like whatever it is. I can be upset. I can be my worst self, but like that's not going to be a reason we split up, Like we're in it together. We see each other's worst selves and are still committed. It's very reflective of the Lord's love for us. I was
listening to Michael Knowles the other day, and he was talking about this really interesting case of this couple that was cohabitating and then decided to separate, and they were in their upper 30s, and woman was upset because she accused the man of robbing her of her childbearing age, and she wanted to sue him for that, which sounds ridiculous, but you think about it and you say, well, they should have been married. But he made the point that a lot of people look at marriage as basically cohabitating, except you have a piece of paper that says that you're married. And then with no fault divorce, you can just easily say like, nope, don't. So again, a lot of people I think enter into marriage without the understanding of the sacrifice, of the commitment, of the exclusivity, fidelity, good of the children. They don't understand that. So it's easy to just say, okay, well, we'll just part ways.
And this brings me to why I didn't like, we mentioned Pope Francis's statement that no marriages are valid, right? Considering how courageous it is to have to enter into that life of that sacrifice and the cross, and you're being supported by the grace of a sacrament, right? Someone saying that all marriages are invalid are literally saying, no, that bond you made was actually not really a bond.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Could you imagine? You just said, because I know this is permanent, because I am bound as one flesh to this man, it is enough to get me to the next day sometimes. And someone turns around and says, oh yeah, by the way, your marriage bond is probably invalid.
Piss me off.
Seriously, right? And
later, but like actually, like Adrian and I do our best, to live it well. We're not good at it, I don't think. I wouldn't say that I'm like great at marriage. That's something that takes, I think, your whole life to like truly love your spouse and die for them and put away yourself and your wants and your desires. But we do try to live it like with the meaning that the church has imbued it with, and that that's just like a little bit heartbreaking to be like, nope, even though you're doing your best that you can right now, that's not enough.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the deal. Failure is possible, right? It is possible when you're given the cross to reject it. Always.
Right. Yeah.
People come to the tribunal sometimes and they're like, this terrible thing happened. He changed, or we changed, or we gave up. Can we have an annulment? And we're like, no.
Right.
Right. It is possible to survive the worst of circumstances through the grace of the cross. But failure is always an option. But you are still bound to this person because the covenant between God and man is a permanence, right? God will never abandon you,
right?
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I say it's very courageous to get married, and it's very beautiful. That's why I think St. John Paul II is the most perfect representation of the love between the Father and the Son. All of the crud and the crap that goes on in the world, marriage is the most countercultural by its nature.
I agree.
Yeah. Because I think the covenant between God and man is the most countercultural in the world. Thank you for being courageous.
And then,
thanks.
On top of that, that dying to self, and that exclusivity and fidelity, then comes the third good of children.
We're going to have to save the parenting children part of this for a different episode, though.
Yeah. You asked a guy who literally deals with marriage every single day.
No, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I knew it would be interesting.
I don't know if it's been interesting, but...
Okay, this is a hotly debated question in at least my circles, and maybe my parents' circles as well.
In the young tradcath circle?
Young tradcath. I don't know if I fall there fully. But are spouses in charge of responsible for getting each other to heaven, or are we merely the means by which the other gets to heaven?
Can you repeat it one more time?
Yes. Are spouses in charge of each other's salvation, morally responsible for getting the other to heaven, or is it more of like the spouse God has given you is the means by which you get to heaven?
In some ways, I would say it's both. I mean, in one way, you're one flesh union, right? When in the letter to the Ephesians, when Paul is talking to the church and using marriage as a representation of the church's relationship between God, he said, husbands, love your wives as much as Christ loves the church.
Yes.
Which means offering yourself for the other. And the only reason you offer is for the good of the other. So by offering, you provide the means for which somebody can enter or to be sanctified. Right? And then it says, wives, be submissive to your husbands, right? What sub means under mission, missio, which means the mission of, follow the mission of your husband. So if you're in a relationship that is moving to a particular end together, you assume in a way the responsibility of the other in their sanctification. But you can never take over the free will of the other.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So we have to be careful. We can't say, I am responsible for your salvation, in the sense that I can give you and say all the right things. You always have the right to say no. Mm-hmm. And if you say no, I can't take responsibility for your no, because I cannot take control of your free will.
Right.
Right. Just as God can't just say, okay, you're saved because I will it. We have to will it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he could.
He could, but he would prefer it to be an act of the will, right?
But so it's like a dual reality there, right? There's a beautiful thing, kind of switching to priests. I think it was St. John Chrysostom was talking to a friend. They wanted to make him a bishop, and the friend didn't want to do it. And St. John Chrysostom said, if you don't become a bishop, when you go to heaven, you will be called into account, and I'm paraphrasing, every single soul that you could have led to heaven if you were a bishop. You would be held responsible for their lack of salvation, if that makes sense. By becoming a bishop, you become an icon of Christ, in that you can lead others to Christ and they would be saved. But if you reject that, you are not in a place that God decided to use you as the instrumental cause for their salvation, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So in the same way, a spouse who abandons their promises are not in a position that God chose to be the instrumental cause for you to enter into salvation. And that way they could become responsible for the failure of the salvation of the spouse. So it's like a double whammy when you enter into your particular judgment, right?
Interesting. Okay.
If that makes any sense.
That does make sense. Yeah. Because I think we like talk about vocation being the way, or like the way of life that the Lord has willed for you in order to walk your path to heaven. So then when we talk about marriage being a vocation, I think some people get confused that like, okay, if this is my path to heaven, we're one flesh, I need to get you to heaven by whatever means necessary. But you're saying you're not morally culpable if your spouse chooses not to follow.
Unless you reject the calling in the first place. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can never, ever take over the will of another person.
Right.
And I mean, this is the root of toxicity and toxic relations and all of that, right? A priest can never tell somebody, hey, you must do this or face eternal wrath. All we can say really is, this is the consequence to this action you're trying to choose, if that makes sense. So I can't tell you, you are going into the next room and you're going to sit there for an hour, right?
Right.
I'm trying to come up with a better example, but you can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Same thing with spouses. You can't look at your husband, I'm sorry, and say, do this. Well, wives do that all the time, but you know what I mean, right? You must believe this. You must have this much fervency in your prayers.
Yeah.
You don't have that control.
No.
And when a spouse gets that control, usually we see them on some podcast somewhere because it's now a crime drama because it gets so toxic, things break down.
Right.
It's a disordering of the covenant between God and man, which is always an invitation, right? If that makes sense.
It does.
And in my short time at the tribunal, I've seen some of the most dastardly evil things people can do to each other because they don't have an ordered understanding of that question.
Kudos to all of you that are faithful. Kudos to all of you that are striving for holiness through matrimony, because as Father said, it's a very difficult, courageous sacrifice when you strive to live it properly.
Sorry for taking the last word from the pastor. You guys become the image for us as priests on how to live the covenant better. So not only are you being courageous, you are being the image, an example of how we can actually succeed in our jobs. So people sometimes come and ask us questions like, how do you do this? In other words, take my will for me.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, no. If you want to know, for example, how to pray together as a couple when one isn't very spiritual, find a couple that's dealing with it. Or how do you keep your kids interested in Mass, right? That's not my job. That's your job.
Yeah.
And I don't have experience in that, right?
Yeah. But you...
I do know that, sometimes you got to make sure your kids don't sit next to each other at Mass. Because I remember that from being a kid when my mom wouldn't let my oldest brother and I sit next to each other.
Smack each other during Mass.
And my mom had the ability to like pinch us right above the knee. Oh. And so I think that's a good way to keep your kids quiet, make them behave in Mass.
We're not talking about this anymore because you guys save all of this for when we actually talk about it.
Okay.
It's time for the one thing. All right. Father Star, should we start with you?
I would like to actually suggest a fountain pen. It's called the Lamy Safari.
The what?
The Lamy or Lamy.
Lamy.
Lamy Safari?
Safari.
Like the African trip.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. So if you've never written with a fountain pen before, you need some help to understand and train yourself how to keep the nib where it is. It's made to teach you how to write with a fountain pen. Once you learn to write with a fountain pen, you discover it's the best thing to write with ever. Right?
Yeah.
And this one is what, $20, $30?
Oh my gosh.
$29.
Inexpensive.
It's the second inexpensive thing I've recommended on this podcast.
Awesome.
It is a fantastic intro fountain pen, and it's a good pen, actually.
It's a very good pen.
Yeah, it's actually a good writing pen.
So,
wow. And that's coming from Father Tim, former advocator for a $1,500 fountain pen.
It's $1,000, the Mont Blanc
12, I think.
The 146. Right?
I mean,
the 149.
Yeah,
But
I write with a Lamy 2000, which is a gold nib pin, and it writes even more smoothly. But the Lamy Safari is amazing.
Great. I'll link it. Father Tim?
Mine is what I talked about earlier, the pasta that I made last night.
Just give me a recipe.
Rigatoni alla norcina. You can look it up on Vincenzo's plate.
Vincenzo's plate?
Vincenzo. Hey.
He's Italian.
Yeah. It's very good. It's sausage, and you make a cream from ricotta cheese. It's got a little bit of pepper, and ideally you should use an Umbrian sausage, but that can be a little difficult to find. So what I did was I used mild Italian mixed with some sage Jimmy Dean breakfast sausage that gave it a little bit of a
I have no idea
savory,
what any of these things are.
You guys are such a good care.
And you can write down the recipe using your Mont Blanc 149 that you bought last time I recommended it.
Your Lamy Safari.
Or your G2 Pilot. My one thing is something I think I've recommended before, but since we're coming up on Advent, it's topical. Advent's in 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Is it really in 3 weeks?
It's November 30th, which I think is
it
2 weeks away.
Is it the Candle
Mary,
Club Advent candles?
No, it's Mary on the Mantle. And it's a little activity you do with kids. It's better than Elf on the Shelf.
Didn't you do this last year?
I did. That's why I
you
said
don't
I
get to
already
say
did.
new.
No.
Yeah, you have to
I'm
pick a new one
back.
thing. Nope.
The last time I recommended it, it was Lent.
Hands up if she can't recommend.
Yep, you got to pick a new one thing. Sorry.
I don't have another one.
You can talk.
Now you know what I feel
You
like.
can talk about the whiskey Advent calendar.
I don't know what that is.
It's an Advent calendar that has a little dram of whiskey in it for every day. It's great.
I don't drink whiskey.
They do a wine one also. I think they do a beer one.
That's what I'm recommending.
The beer Advent
Mary
calendar.
on the Mantle.
You can
great.
also do Minch on the Bench.
Minch on the bench.
Oh my gosh. Okay, thanks for listening. All of these will be linked in the show notes. Somebody asked me how we rate the podcast. You can only do that on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Can't rate it on I don't think you can rate on your other podcast apps.
You can thumbs down on the YouTube.
Don't thumbs down.
Don't thumbs down. You can thumbs up. But we would love if you Dave, talking to you specifically, I don't know why your Apple Podcasts app doesn't let you rate the podcast. So
I thought you took his phone and fixed it for him.
I didn't. I think it's his phone's too old.
Ask one of your grandkids to do it for you. They'll figure it out.
But if you guys have questions, we'd love to hear them. Send them our way via email at podcast@stclaircc.org, or you can text us a question at the link in our show notes, and we'll probably answer them in an upcoming episode.
I'm supposed to read this, right?
Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate you tuning in.
Did you just throw a gang symbol?
I think she just threw a gang symbol.
I think I just put my hand up.
No, you threw a gang symbol.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram, subscribe, and share the Truth Unplugged with your friends. And I still don't know why you would. And if you enjoyed today's episode, leave a review on your listening platform. It helps the podcast reach more listeners.
Until next time, God bless.